Hello, welcome to Triggered Care. I'm Alex. And today I want to get back to some PTSD recovery stuff and something that I've been thinking about lately because I've been talking to a lot of people about this stuff. So I figured I'd share with you guys. See if you guys find it helpful at all or relatable. So let's get into it. Today I'm talking about the inner critic, or what people call the inner critic, which I have a different name for it, but I'll get into that. And what I'm talking about with the inner critic is the part of yourself that kind of hates on yourself and projects a lot of anger and self-loathing, like, oh, I'm stupid, or I should have known better, or I deserve to be abused, I deserve whatever I get. And for me, I see that part of myself as a protector, and what that protector's job is, how that part of my brain functions, is it comes out to take on my biggest life traumas. Like if I'm going through a lot, that part of my brain's going to come out. It's going to kind of wipe away my memory, but it's my survival part of my brain that's taken on all that pain. So when I'm more conscious and more grounded, and I hear that voice telling me that I'm worthless and that they hate me and that I'm just a fraud, I'm just an imposter, it makes a little bit more sense if you think about that part of your brain that takes on all those painful parts being angry at you and resentful towards you for having to put that trauma on them, even though obviously that wasn't your choice. But it's a way for them to let out that pain, since you're going to be the only one that they can communicate with, since they are stuck in your head. And I know that I'm talking about it very much like they're a different person. They're you. But for me, it helps kind of clear out my brain and sort my thoughts into categories, which then has helped me combat the effects of that. So what or why does it happen? Why are protectors or inner critics so critical, and why do they push for suicidal thoughts and feelings, or why does it seem like they have a surplus of them that they can just pour onto us? And that's because when they face those huge traumas that are too much for a brain to handle, that's an exit strategy. That's an exit plan. Like, hey, if this trauma doesn't let up, if we are stuck in this position for too long, we need to have a way out. And death is a way out of that. Logically, that's just the way the human brain works, is it doesn't want to be in unimaginable pain for too long, go figure. And so then after that event happens, they're going to be stuck with that feeling of, we might need to kill ourselves to get out of here. And so it's like your brain is always being primed to self-destruct should the reason arise, which is really hard to deal with. And I've seen a lot of advice memes in the mental health world about how to interact with your inner critic, which I find some of the advice problematic, because for the first 5 to 6 years of my recovery, I was fighting with my inner critic non-stop, telling them that they were wrong and that they are cruel and that they're stupid and that I wish that they weren't around, and just constantly trying to block them out. But it would never work. They would just constantly be there. And it was like having a battle with myself every day for years, because I didn't understand why they wouldn't leave. I didn't understand why I couldn't get rid of them. And it made the relationship between me and that part of my brain very hostile and very difficult to handle, especially when I would get into episodes or become overwhelmed, and then that part of my brain comes out for a bit. obviously there's going to be self-harm outbursts and that sort of thing. And I always kind of felt like that part of my brain was taking me hostage, like, I hate you and I will destroy you if I get the chance. And so that wasn't, arguing with my inner critic did not bode well for quite a while. And then I started to change my inner dialogue. And I tried a new approach because I heard advice from another survivor saying that they negotiated with their inner critic and discussed what they would like to do, what their wants are, what their desires are, you know, apart from all the self-harm stuff, and like just negotiating like what that painful part of your brain needs to feel better and figuring that out and working towards those goals of helping that part of your brain feel better. So, how I talk to my inner critic now versus before when I was arguing and fighting with them all the time, and my pup's gonna wander around a bit. So once I realized the function of my inner critic, and I I had the memories of what brought them out to begin with, which then helped me empathize a lot with that part of my brain of like, obviously you are super overwhelmed and overstimulated and in pain. I very much understand why all this hatred is being poured on to me, and you know, I'd appreciate it if you didn't say these mean things, but if you do, like, I get it, and I really hope that you're feeling better soon. And kind of just switching it around from taking everything so personally to being like, oh, you are valid in your anger. And I'm sorry that you don't know how to figure that out in a healthy way yet, but we can work towards it and we can get there. Which is quite the shift from just constantly being at odds with yourself and arguing with yourself constantly. So part of that is trusting my inner critic while maintaining good boundaries. Like, I don't want to self-harm, and my inner critic very much does. So, like I've spoken about a few times before, art has been a really good compromise for the both of us of like, well, I want you to express this in a way that doesn't hurt me. And then, you know, a part of that they get back in return is you can take as many scalding hot showers as you would like. You can toast up your skin as much as you want. Just, you know, let's keep it in the parameters. Because the inner critic is very much intertwined with masochism and enjoying pain. So finding masochistic hobbies or ways to express that masochism that actually feels like it's working on it is kind of challenging. I tell them that I love them and I support them, which feels really weird and really off at first, especially with how much anger I had cultivated for my inner critic, which was a lot. When I first heard this advice, I was almost like, there's no way I can do that. There's no trust there. That guy's such a dick. Like, I can't be nice to him. I can't trust him. But I've been working on it for a couple years now, and it's definitely improved my brain functioning. Like, my life is still really intense, but I feel more grounded, and I feel more able to act on things that I want to act on, even though that can be challenging. Like, there's no way that I'm, like, recovered. I'm still climbing my way out of the hole of sadness, but I'm working on it. And I trust my gut feelings. I listen to my gut feelings more because that is tied to the inner critic thing too. Because I notice that when I don't trust my gut feelings, that inner critic monologue goes on and on of like, well, you knew, but you didn't do anything about it because you're really stupid, and like, you felt it in your gut, but you're just like, no, I won't listen to that, blah, 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 blah. And so when I listen to my gut feelings immediately, there's way less self-shame and self-blame that I feel of like, okay, I'm gonna listen. Usually I tell myself, oh no, it's just stupid, but instead of falling into that autopilot, I'm working on being like, all right, I'm feeling this gut feeling, I'm going with it. Wherever it takes me. I don't know. But it's way better to listen to it and not get yelled at afterwards that I didn't listen to it than, you know. And then, to sum it up, just work on cooperating with them, work on finding mental stability together, and being a support for them, and then they'll be more of a support for you. I hope that this made sense. I'm a bit distracted since my dog is wandering around and licking at me. But it's just been something on my mind, and I've seen quite a few mental health memes talking about inner critic stuff and just giving the advice of fighting back or telling them to fuck off, and it makes me worried because that is in my situation, that made my mental health way worse. So I just wanted to speak on that and be like, maybe offer yourself empathy and don't judge parts of your brain that didn't have a chance to mature and develop yet because they were faced with a bunch of trauma that your consciousness, as you know it, could not handle. So, yeah. I should get going. I'm being called right now. But I hope everybody out there is having good ones. Thank you for all the views and even the comments. My last incel video, the comments are a little bit different than normal. But it's okay. I find them extremely fascinating. And so I appreciate the different perspective. And I appreciate people leaving their thoughts, even if they're not from the recovery world per se. I still really appreciate people sharing with me. So thank you. And I hope everybody has good ones.